Good afternoon, everyone. I'm KingBlackToof. Lovely to have you here. So I want to go over this swap update changes and analyze them and sort of talk about where I think that card's going to be. So let's start off with Black Blood, the first one we saw. It now creates a bronze necrophage or vampire and boosts it by 2. You can still destroy a bronze or silver one. So we lost Abaya Weatherclear, we lost Katakan Moonlight Weatherclear. We also lost Hubert for Hubert meme decks. So they were the main ones you were going for. And by removing the silvers, it becomes more consistent, but it just changed what the card was about. No one's going to take this card for many reasons, I would say. Now, it reminds me very similarly of a Monster Nest, to be honest. The vampire option is Ekimara, and that's it, which is an 11-point card, pretty bland, not real much interesting going on that one, apart from it goes under armor. But the bronze necrophage is identical to the necrophage options from Monster Nest. And, you know, we've got a wide spectrum of cards here as well. We've got the useless card. We've got a nice value card, Eat a Spy or something, could be worth 17 points, which is okay. We've got a movement card, we've got Death Wish card, and we've got an engine card. Okay, so very similar to the Monster Nest there, apart from the Monster Nest also does insectoids. A big issue here is that this is create, whereas Monster Nest allows you to choose. And Monster Nest is considered a good card. This boosts by 2, that boosts by 1. But bear in mind, this is create, so there's 6 options from this card now, which is dramatically low really, but means it's consistent. It means you're going to get half the choices presented to you, but it also means that maybe you won't get a ghoul when you want a ghoul. So I think for most factions, they're not going to pick this for any reason. There's nothing spectacular out of it, apart from maybe a 17-point ghoul. Even that I struggle to say is spectacular. But, you know, monster players may choose a second Monster Nest with Black Blood now. It's very consistently going to get something of worth. If you're playing Fog, if you're playing Weather, if you're playing Ghouls and Consume and stuff like that. So that's probably not going to be used very much at all now, I would say. And I think even monster players probably won't choose it, but it's there if they want to give it a shot. So next up, we've got the Doppler change. Spawn a random bronze unit from your faction. I'm going to personally say that I feel like this is really just not a great way of changing it, honestly. I mean, people didn't like create, but I guess it depends what way you're thinking about it. Because this is more RNG, obviously, which is weird because people didn't like create, and the thing they didn't like about create was the fact that it gave the opponent options and they didn't have to plan for things. You can stick Dopplers in and try and get a weather clear, that try and get a movement, try and get something which will, you know, level for scorch, do a bit of damage and stuff. And now this is completely random. So technically more randomness is here, but people I think will like it, but it won't be good. People like the change because then it means that create is not going to be, oh, I've just created a weather clear, and while it can still happen, no one's really going to risk it. This card was pretty much relegated to Scoia'tael only because they're the only ones that can pull it. It's just a really weird card because what is it exactly? It's a bronze card where you're basically getting a bronze card that you don't know what it is. And that just sounds terrible. I mean, it sounds really bad because there's a lot of duff bronze cards that you can get. And without the choice, it's just too risky. I think Scoia'tael would be the only faction that might go for it because then it's 1 strength Elven Mercenary plus thinning plus a bronze. But yeah, it's just a weird card. This needs this. I think it's just a temporary band-aid, really. Just get it out there, get it away. So next up, we've got Olgierd von Everich, and this is a unusual, drastic change, but one of the more interesting ones of the bunch as well. He's now a 5 strength silver, and he has a Death Wish to resurrect this unit on a random row. So it's quite an interesting change. I kind of like the interestingness of it because it does get you creativity flowing. A lot of people want to give it a go and see what kind of things they can do. But a lot of people are saying it's probably not very good. It's kind of bad. Because it's a Death Wish, it's basically a 1-turn, a 1-round Morkvarg. It won't come back on its own in round 2 or 3 unless you resurrect it. So basically it's going to just be a 1-round infinite use of a card. So in that respect, we've got anything that can kind of kill it off and gain benefits. So Grand Warriors, Forktails for the consume benefits, Barber Gansey as well. We've got Cyclops, that could do some damage. You've got Blood Curdling Roar. You've got maybe Light Longship could hit it multiple times, and then when it dies, it will come back. We've got the Cambi angle, where you put it on round 5, maybe you strengthen it, and then when Cambi goes off and kills it, it will come back. So we've also got another thing that I just thought of, which is Weather. It could deny maybe Frost if it's the lowest unit. It dies, comes back onto a random row, but hopefully it goes into the Weather, and again will protect even more. And then, you know, so there's several positives to it, but we have to think about it a little bit more mathematically than that. Blood Curdling Roar. If you use it on all geared, yeah, you'll get the 5 strength back, but that's really only saving 1 point of value if you did it against a 1 strength unit. Okay, you've got Consumes. So while you might not have enough units to consume, in which case this would be a really good card, sometimes Forktails run out of units and you have to start eating your neckers prematurely. This would kind of save that. It also means that you're not particularly getting much value from this, and you'd have to consume it multiple times to get actually good value from this silver. And if they pass or something in round 1, then you know you're not going to get him back at all. We've got Barber Gansey. Again, it's just 5 extra strength you're getting on top of whatever you would normally have gotten. So you would have to do this multiple times to get the value out of him as a silver. So the negatives also being that you can't discard him with King Bran anymore. You have to play him presumably from hand, which is pretty low tempo, pretty bad really. I mean, are there any ways? Yeah, there are some ways. Skal can pull him, which is nice. The Heim can pull him as well. Maybe then you could use him with light longships. I'm not seeing many other ways. I'm sure there are some other things that can pull certain silvers that haven't sprung to mind. But for the most part, it seems like a bit of a low tempo card, and then you have to work on him to actually make him worthwhile. So really interesting idea. I know why they've done it. They've done it to counter the carryover, but we'll have to see what kind of things can come up. I'd like to try and stay optimistic that it's a really nice idea to have a card that keeps coming back, and maybe you could use that to your advantage in some way. Next up, we've got the Runestone change. So all the Runestones now create a silver or bronze card from the faction, and this has really just exploded the consistency. It wasn't necessarily too consistent to start with, but now it's really bad. There's a card called Garrison, which is kind of similar, can do silvers and bronzes, and it's just not good because there's a lot of bronzes and a lot of bad bronzes too. And this does your entire faction, so there really are garbage cards now for the most part, I would say, which I suppose is what you actually wanted. But why bother printing garbage cards? I know they're there because, you know, they wanted it there, and I suppose that's fine. But they're very bad now. There's a lot of bronzes that you don't want, and there's a lot of... It just means that it's going to be harder to do anything with them. But I think that's what people wanted. So while I am spinning this in a negative light, I think this is probably a positive thing for a lot of people. They might not even be taken in a lot of other situations where you might normally have taken them in Arena, for example. So, yeah, it's probably a good thing, but they are pretty bad cards now. Next up, the Winch card. So this is the Northern Realms, and we obviously know the Winch is a powerful card for Hensel, and Hensel got a double sort of nerf. So the first one is Winch. Boost all machines on your side of the board by 3. Now, I think that's a reasonably powerful thing, I think. It means you need 5 machines to get 15 value, and for a bronze that can be tutored is not bad, really, but you need 5 machines. And I think that's probably where the weakness comes in, which is after you've got 5 machines on the board, you're probably doing all right for yourself. I mean, you probably don't need to push a whole lot more. And if you do, you could probably push with either more machines or more siege masters or something. So I'm not sure. This is like the other things where is it really necessary to play this? Whereas when you've got to this point, usually you've already kind of won. But I think it's actually quite a strong ability. And this is meant for a very long round, and that's what I mean earlier, where when you've got to that point, you put the rounds probably over or you already won or something. It requires a long round to use, and so you can't put that many in your deck because it might not be useful. But it's definitely got a powerful ability. Five machines, and then that's 15 value plus tutor. That's quite a strong card, I think. So we'll have to see. I mean, maybe it'll switch out the Hensout for like a really high machine deck, and then you can just start doing some Squirtle swarm buffing style stuff with the winch. If you've got 10 machines on the board, then this is worth 30 points, which is insane. I think I'm exaggerating for effect, but I think it's quite a powerful ability. I just wondered, it's just how useful is it going to be in shorter rounds, which is one of the main issues there. The next nerf to kind of like Hensouts is the Dun Banner. So if you're losing by more than 25 now, so it's a bit harder to get rather than 21. It has to be more than 25, so it's actually 26 points. That's pretty hard to do. That is effectively like 2 spies. So it's really hard to sort of gauge how easy this will be or how hard this will be. I personally always found 21 difficult to do, but that's because I play so damn good that I can't lose by 21 points. No, it's just, I think we really need to kind of see people try and employ tactics to lose by more than 25 points. If you do lose by more than 25 points, this is going to give you 12, so you're still going to be losing by 14 points at that point, which is still actually quite a lot. So, it's quite a drastic change. We'll see what happens. I think they're going to be significantly difficult to get out now, so they may be removed and maybe changed for more machines, which you could use with winch, maybe. So next up, we've got the Elven Scale, which has changed. This now is a 10 strength bronze, which swaps the card. Now, they've actually changed swap and mulligans, so they're completely different, which means when you mulligan something in your opening hand at the start of the game, it doesn't actually count as a swap. So things like War Dancers won't activate, things like the Vryhead Vanguards won't activate because that's counted as a mulligan and not a swap. So that's quite important. The differentiation between swap and mulligan is quite a big one. But this is basically a 10 strength card which swaps the card, which is nice. It can be used in conjunction with War Dancers and stuff like that. So here's the War Dancer, and this is now a 3 strength bronze. Whenever you swap this unit, play it automatically onto a random row. So its abilities remain the same, but because of the differentiation between swap and mulligan, it won't activate at the start of a game when you mulligan it from your hand into your deck. So basically this is turned into more of a Dalian foot soldier, where you have to keep it in your hand at the start of the game and then swap it out with either the Elven Scout that we just saw or the other thing that swaps the card. I can't remember what it's called. Vryhead Swapper. I don't know. Which means if you use the 10 strength Elven Scout plus the War Dancer, that's a 13 strength play, which is not bad. And also it puts 2 elves on the board. I guess one negative for the Elven Scout is that it's actually only 1 body in now. So, yeah. So that's the ultimate fix. That's what everyone wanted. And to be honest, it's not the most flavorful, but it's a short-term fix to fix the mulligan issue, which is going to make a significant impact on Bruver and his particular deck, because so I think there's only a couple of carryover things left. All of them have to be put onto the board now. Morkvarg is probably one of the main ones, but again, he can be killed or locked or muzzled or something. But yeah, so this fixes that issue, which I think hopefully will shake things up dramatically, but we'll see. Likewise, the Vryhead Vanguard has also benefited from the swap mechanic and differentiation between mulligan. So this won't activate if it's in your hand. You have to actually swap it with a card like the Elven Scout. So now we've got Bruverhoog, and he now plays a non-spying silver unit or a bronze dwarf. So he can't pull Yavin is the main thing. Now we can't pull Iris, but I don't think many people did that anyway. I think this would make a small impact. Not having access to Yavin all the time is a big deal. People might be trying to stick in things like Alsa's Double Cross to pull Yavin and then use Bruverhoog for Barclay into Cleaver still. So I think this will make a reasonable impact. It will change people's decks to try and get the thing to work. But combine that with the War Dancer change early, I think that will make a significant impact. And I think that means this deck is going to go down in the tier list a little bit. It seems like Skellige Greatswords haven't really changed at all, so they're still going to be really very good. Henselt got nerfed, Bruver got nerfed, and so we're really looking at Greatswords being the top tier deck at the minute, I think, in which case that's probably the thing to tech against. And we'll see how well this particular deck, because people will try and reshape and remold this deck to try and work with Alzur's Double Cross and maybe Eastern Grim Outlaw to kind of add consistency to the whole game plan at the beginning. And finally, the last change is the Slave Driver. So it's a 10 strength bronze now and sets an ally's power to 1 and deals damage to an enemy by the amount of power lost. So it's like a Cyclops from monsters. Doesn't kill the unit though. Now, in monsters, killing the units will be good because of the Death Wish synergy. In Nilfgaard, we don't really have much, so not killing the units here is actually a really good thing. So I really find this card a really interesting one, like Old Gear, because it sets a lot of applications firing, a lot of really cool things that you might possibly combo with it. And there is a lot of really cool stuff. So when we set an ally's power to 1, it's kind of wounded, so it's been damaged down to 1. Which gives you the option to heal it or reset it using things like Marjoram or Mandrake or Peter as well. A lot of really cool things there. So you can get a high strength unit, weaken it down to 1 or set its power to 1, and then deal loads of damage and then strengthen it back up stronger than ever. And it's a really nice 2-part combo there. But there's other applications as well. So we've got setting a unit's power down to 1. It combos with Becca's Twisted Mirror. Probably not going to be used, but it's there. It's really nice to set a Witcher down to 1, so you get maximum effectiveness from a Trial of Grasses. We've got setting allies' power down to 1 to get the most optimal Vilgefortz that you could possibly get. If there's one unit on a row and it's in weather, you could set its health down to 1 so you could do some damage and just kind of negate a lot of the potential value that you could have got hit by that weather as well. So there's a lot of really nice possibilities with this card and 2-part combos that make this card an exciting one. So I think a lot of people will be experimenting with this. There'll be a lot of experimenting with Old Geared as well. And for the top tier people, reshaping of Bruver decks, reshaping of Henselt decks, maybe trying that winch a little bit. Seems like Greatswords are going to remain where they are as really, really, really good. And we're going to have to try and counter them. There are some counters for them, so other decks might be pushed up a little bit, like Spell Squirtle or Scorch. It does seem that we thought that Create was going to get relegated and restricted to Casual and Arena. No evidence of that. They didn't mention that. Now, all the patch notes haven't come out, so maybe it'll still be in there, but that's something which is kind of flew by a little bit, really, to be honest. But they've changed the Integra cards. I think the main things people wanted changing is Runestones, War Dancer, Dunbanner, Elven Scale, and Slave Driver. Okay, and Bruver Hoog thing. And to be honest, those 5 things or 6 things have been done. So let's see how it shakes things up. I have a nice hope that it just shakes things up. Hopefully you can't reshape Bruver and Henselt too easily, and you have to change it up slightly. But thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the changes, and I'll see you again very soon.